Bag of donuts. Sometimes all it takes is a kind gesture to save a life. In the summer of '73, my family and I had just moved to Los Angeles. With no place to live and no money, we found ourselves staying at a mission on Skid Row. It was not the best place for an 11-year-old boy. This was the turning point of my life. Not having any other kids to play with, I would walk the streets, and I met many types of people. Normal people would call them drunks, bums, and tramps. I called them my friends and my teachers. The streets were my classroom. Alcohol was the first step into my new life. I learned how I could afford to eat and drink. I would drink 1, 2, or 3 bottles of cheap wine a day. My friends called me lucky, although I never felt that way. After living on Skid Row for 6 months, my family transferred to another mission. There were kids like myself, except that I was far more streetwise than even their parents. I learned at a young age how to manipulate others into doing what I wanted, not realizing what I was becoming and not caring about others' feelings. I was an alcoholic in the making. Things got somewhat better, and we moved into our own home. But by age 15, I couldn't make it through the day without a drink. We lived on the Watts and Compton border. My choices were slim. I could join a gang and sell drugs, or I could become a thief. The first 3 days that I attended school, I got jumped. On the 4th day, I was ready. I brought a bike chain with me, and I swung first. I hit one kid on the back of the head and another on his hand. I told them that I lived there now, so they could get used to it, or we could keep doing this every day. They looked at me and each other and said, "It's cool." I have to admit it went better than I thought it would. I met this older dude, JC, and his girl, Sue. We hung out and drank. They were the closest I had to real friends. One day I went over to their house, and Sue told me that JC was killed robbing a convenience store. I can't remember a lot after that. I drank every day and night for the next 6 months. I woke up one day sitting in a police substation. I'd gotten popped for stealing a 40-ounce beer, and the judge gave me 6 months. By this time, I was 17 and had decided not to move back home, so I moved to Hollywood. I met other street kids, and we ran together. I was still drinking every day. I sold pot to support my drinking habit, but also started taking other drugs. Then something unexpected happened. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I had wasted the better part of an hour on the corner of Hollywood and Vine, waiting for my dealer to show, and watching many different types of people come and go. Men in women's clothing, a hooker or two, a guy begging for change. There was this bag lady pushing her cart. She must have been looking for a place to sleep. I wouldn't sleep in this part of town, but there I was, waiting to buy dope. I wondered which one of us was the crazy one. As she passed by me, she smiled and asked if I could buy her a cup of coffee. I was pissed that my dealer hadn't shown up yet, and without thinking I said, "Hell no." She smiled and thanked me anyway. "Wait," I said, "I'm sorry. Let's go to the donut shop across the street." I ordered 2 large coffees and 4 donuts, and we sat at a table where she could watch her cart and I could watch for my dealer. "What's a nice kid like you doing in this part of town?" she asked. Before I could answer, she said, "Drugs, I bet." "Why would you think that?" I asked. "How do you think I got here? Do you think that I was always like this?" She told me that she was an alcoholic and a drug addict. She told me of her home and family that she lost because she couldn't stop using. She said she had been living on the street for the last 2 years, and for the last 3 months she had been attending AA meetings and had been sober for 6 weeks. "That sounds great," I told her. I felt that she could see right through me. "Why do you seem to be so happy?" I asked. "I live just for the day, and God gives me everything that I need," she said. The night passed by. My dealer never showed up, and I really didn't care. I was feeling kind of good as we said our goodbyes. She told me that she would pray for me. I never saw her again. A few years later, I was 25 years old and homeless. My life rotated around liquor stores, bar rooms, and rundown motels. I couldn't keep a steady job and worked as a day laborer to earn just enough each day for a fifth of whiskey, a loaf of bread, and a jar of jam. It wasn't much of a life. I was just getting by. One night, while walking home, I passed by a midnight AA meeting. This guy invited me to come in. They had coffee and donuts inside. I thought, what the hell? At least I'll get to eat. There was this guy speaking up front. I thought he talked a good talk, but how could just talking about drinking make me feel better? I told them that I didn't get it, but thanked them for the coffee and donuts. A couple stopped me at the door. They introduced themselves, handed me a bag of donuts, and invited me to come back any time. I kind of got choked up and said, okay. Walking home, I started to cry. No one had ever been kind to me before. But the next day I was back to my same old routine, and I kept living that way for the next 20 years. Today I ask myself what was so hard to understand. I let my fears stop me back then. I was weak and afraid to ask for help. But better late than never. I've come to a point in my life where I'm ready for a change. Change isn't going to be easy, and at times my feelings will probably get bruised. Now I am building a good, strong foundation using the wisdom of my brothers and sisters who came before me. And with the strength of my higher power, I now have the ability to become a better person. Why did I tempt fate to the brink of death before I started to see the light? Why did I live with loneliness, self-pity, and fear? Why did I blame others for everything that went wrong in my life? I needed to take a good look at myself and start from scratch. I have been attending meetings and listening to others and expressing my feelings. My life is in the care of a power greater than myself. I don't know if I have changed, but I like the person I am becoming. Medically, my liver is shot. I have congestive heart failure and diabetes. I'm not going to let this hinder me. I've been sober for 5 months. I am attending meetings, I listen to my sponsor, and I'm following the steps. I am living with my eyes wide open, knowing what I do and doing what is right. I have found serenity and hope and peace of mind. Dave F., Hutchinson, Kansas.